right, and welcome to the Courtenay Turner podcast. I'm your host, Courtenay, and I'm super passionate about moving and thinking. On this show, we are going to dive into all things health, fitness, personal development, lifestyle, and political, sociocultural. I've always been fascinated by people, and I love learning from the experiences and stories of others. This has been a treat for me, and I hope this is enjoyable and useful for you. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or any way that I can make this a better experience for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Hello, welcome to the Courtenay Turner podcast. I am here today with Lauren Amaroo. She is the founder of Shakti Yoga. She is a holistic life coach and a baby communicator. How are you doing today, Lauren?
So good. I'm so grateful to be with you.
Likewise. I'm so excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about how you came to create this style of yoga, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, it's unique. It's been a progression of, a long line of different modalities that came together to form this practice. But I've always been so passionate about health and wellness and fitness, which has morphed over the years, obviously. But I literally started teaching classes when I was in high school, like fitness classes in high school. Yeah, so it's just been I did, regular fitness classes, and then I got into yoga and Pilates and all these different modalities. And it wasn't until I was actually at an event with one of my clients, and she brought in striptease, cardio instructor. Have you ever heard of? I can't. It's strip cardio or something like that.
Right.
And I was working, and I was in the back, and I was just with one of my friends. We were doing yoga, and I started incorporating some of the movements that she was doing while I was practicing yoga, and I was like, this actually feels amazing. And I've already had Kundalini yoga is a huge part of my life, and just a very foundational part of, I think, my health. And so it just started happening where I'm oh, this feels really good in my body. And I loved the music she was playing, and I'm always enjoyed music so much. So I took all these things and I started to morph them into my practices on my own, and then it just came through. And now it's I established it as Chakti Yoga, which is, I took the energy of Shakti, which is basically love, and the chakras, the energy system. So, and I put the two words together, and it became Chakti Yoga. So, and it's just the practice is, the foundation is yoga. You get an amazing practice, but we move within each asana. So within each pose, you are moving. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the practice, it's a full-on practice and workout. It's not restorative yoga by any means. So, but yeah, it's so fun. And it's really just teaching people to love themselves and empowering themselves. And then more than anything, to feel freedom in your mind and your body, because so many workout modalities are phenomenal, but it's a lot of thinking and a lot of linear, am I doing this form right? Am I, counting your reps? And, there's so much in the thinking mind. And this is completely out of the thinking mind and in the heart. This is a heart practice, 100%. So
awesome. So
yeah.
How is it a heart practice? Because you have to learn the movements, right? So explain, right? So just explain a little bit about how does it become a heart practice?
Yeah. So I curate it so that you come in and say it's your first time. I'm going to just literally tell you, I would love for you to get out of your mind and get into your heart. Don't worry about what you look like. Do not worry about form. Obviously, honor your body. If I'm doing something that you don't want to do, don't do it, right? But the music is going to be really loud, super loud. All the lights are off. So it's very dim lights. And I'm mic'd, but you don't always hear me. And that's intentional. I wouldn't care if you couldn't hear me at all, because I want you to follow and allow your body to feel the rhythm of the music and see what happens when you tap into that space in you that just is like so incredibly in rhythm and beat with the music.
So it sounds almost like dance.
Oh yeah, we dance. Yeah. We dance. We do plyometrics. We move with repetition, like a lot of Kundalini, where you're doing the same thing over and over and over. But it's all to the beat of the music. And like I feel like I'm a DJ, because every single class I use a different playlist. I have thousands on Spotify. And I'm constantly just curating it. So the music is like a heartbeat. So we'll start, like at a low heartbeat, we go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then there's moments of just like full on ecstatic dance where you're just free and you can jump around and move your body any way you want to and just feel like immense joy, ecstasy, bliss, all of it. So that's how it becomes a heart space. And from the heart space, we're just like fully opening up to that energy. And, there is a time and a place where I do believe it's really important to understand good form and honor that. But like, this is really not one of those. This is where I'm like, I want you to like, listen. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it, but right. If it feels good, go for it. So, you got to try it. And you'll see.
No, I definitely have to try it. I definitely have to try it. It sounds awesome. I'm curious so it's kind of, one of the things I love about what you're saying is that it sounds a lot like, how I do the show What is Movement? And I call it movement specifically because it's not training, it's not exercise. And I think movement is incredibly healing. My tagline is that all human beings are designed to move, but the ways in which we do are our unique creative expression. And I feel like what you're talking about embodies that so much. And I think it's really tapping into that is so healing for people, because it is our physical manifestation of our, mental, emotional, spiritual being. So, and that's why it's so healing, because it integrates all of it together.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I've been doing this for years now. And like, women, I say women because it is predominantly women in the room, but there are many men as well. That have held on to like maybe past relationships, sexual trauma, shame, like any body image issues, anything to do with what we hold in our energetic body can release, because we are doing so much shaking, which is clearing the lymph where we hold our emotions, right? So yeah, and it's really balancing, because we're doing so much repetition on the right and left sides of the body. So we have sun and moon, light and dark, masculine, feminine, and it's like creating this balance, and just like awakening the energetic body, because when we're stagnant, we just hold it in, and so this is like creates a nice release for the body. And I'll have people laughing, crying, like people come in and they're like, I have severe back pain, I don't know if I can do this. And by the end of class, they're like, my back has never felt better. Like you just hold so much. I mean, have you what is that book? It's
Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. That's exactly what came to mind.
Yeah. My mind.
You're welcome. Yeah, sometimes don't get creeped out, but yeah.
Good. Yeah, just like understanding that, like really all the pain we feel is typically connected to the emotional body. And and when we're aware of that, it makes it so much I don't know if easier is the right word, to just release what we're holding on to move forward in healing. And
accessible, I think, is the word, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. And I feel that so often. Like I can just talk to my own, experience last week. I was traveling, and it was great, and it was a great time, but I didn't have a chance to really work out at all. And we were discussing before I got on here, wasn't feeling well yesterday at all. And I have no idea what it was. I don't know if it was some sort of like allergic reaction but I was definitely, I could feel it was gut related. And I actually think a lot of it had to do with not having, moved. And there was just stuff inside me, whether it be like literally physical or even emotional, that was just, for me, it's such, movement is my release time. It's my, I call it like moving meditation. And for me, it's like the time to just like, it's not, a lot of people say like they want to sweat, but it's not about the sweat itself. It's about the release. Yeah. It's about the release and about getting out of your head. Right. So even, yeah. And even if you're in your head though, it's in a different way. It's a much more meditative type of state where you just let the thoughts come in, let them go. And yeah.
That is, exactly the intention that I, like when curating this space, it's like, so that you really can just find that place, like meditative state of mind where you're, you can just be free and allow, emotion to release, allow whatever intention that you set, there's like this collective energy that comes through. And like, as we breathe together and we move together, and, the intention of the practice and the way that we're working through each chakra is just like such a powerful time of like getting what you need.
That's amazing. So it's interesting. You said you go through each chakra. So that's how the practice is designed. So there's movements through each chakra. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in each practice, and it's not always in order, but in each practice, I am mindful to tap into the 7 main chakras.
Sure.
So with the root chakra, a lot of times we'll start with like some spiraling, some Sufi rolls, like in Sukhasana, which is just like cross-leg, seated, and like having our root connected to the ground, Mother Earth. And we start with like just stimulating right at the root chakra, and then we'll do sacral and solar plexus work by activating the core and doing movements through the core. So say that we're in like a all fours or plank pose, we are moving within those postures right at those chakras, those energetic spots. And then there's a lot of isolations that happen as well. And then like if we're in the heart space, we will even open up through the heart, expand and contract, expand and contract. Through the like the actual dance part, it's just like this time for the heart to just feel that freedom, which people need so desperately right now. So desperately. The throat, we do, like in a typical practice, like if you're in Ustrasana, like camel pose, or doing neck rolls. Sometimes we'll just do side to side repetition, like in Kundalini. For the third eye and the crown, it's really just moving the energy up. So sometimes I'll even have them tapping those positions in their body through the practice. So if we're spiraling our hips through our ribs, through our neck, through our head, like it's just moving it all the way up. And I'll have them also visualize like a coil of energy, that Shakti energy. So we started at the root, and you visualize the light moving like a coil, because we're nature and everything in nature spirals, right? So for us to spiral, particularly the woman body, the feminine body, like that's our flow. We are, we're constantly in the flow. It's like, that's just part of who we are. So it feels so incredible. And also with, the movement, obviously our heart rate gets up a lot, which is so powerful for the heart too, the lungs, and working in the heart chakra, just like oxygenating the blood, which makes the prana flow, which makes our life force just become more active.
Wow, that's incredible to hear it, like to hear the layout of each of the chakras. I don't think we think about that very often. I don't think we think about the physical manifestation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a constant thought in my mind, and like where we're holding it, because it's like there's patterning that we're able to reprogram any programs that have been put in our bodies, right? And so if we're intentional about the movement in a way that like, let me repattern love into these cells, or whatever you're desiring, whatever you're needing more of. And you can actually, with your intention, with the movement, like put that into your DNA, you know, you can make that who you are. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun. And you could take that into any practice or movement you're doing with that awareness, you know?
Right.
It's just curated exactly for that.
Yeah. I think a lot of us could really use. What have you seen? Have you, like, over the years and working with people, have you seen, you talk about like particularly like shame and trauma release. Have you witnessed that? And can you talk a little bit about it?
So much. And I have just been so honored and blown away by like the transparency and honesty of a lot of clients like that have been victim of rape and sexual abuse and not comfortable in their body, and holding, like basically like just holding trauma in the body. And through this movement, it's like this, there's so much of a release, but the practice is about love and joy. So like with this release, naturally what's going to come in is love in the space, you know? Mm-hmm. So like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you'll just see people like pause and they're just like having a full-on emotional release, just crying, or they leave and they just have to get in their car and just, I'm always like, let it out. Like this is waiting to come out. It's like begging to get out of your fascia, you know? And so that, but also with fertility issues, that's a thing that I've seen a lot as well, because if we are stuck in the root and sacral, or, you know, just holding negative energies there,
sure.
It's really going to affect our fertility. So I've had women like leave class and pass clots, like literal clots out of their body. And then a couple months later, they're like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh. It's so phenomenal. It's just like, but we know this to be true, because if you're aware of energy at all,
right,
you know, like the power of like what energy does to our body. Like if you're around negative energy, you kind of like lock up. Well, I
do. Yeah, I'm a very kinesthetic person. So yeah, I think it's, you know, I mean, everybody has different personalities and sensorial preferences, but I think for me, because of my sensorial deprivations, so my kinesphere is, you know, very profound for me.
Yeah. What a blessing too for you. I wanted to tell you this. When I learned about you, it was from my friend Sean Nixon, and you were on his podcast. Okay. And I had it playing in the car, and so I have a daughter and a son, and my son is a little older. He's 12, but he's listening, and he's just like fully intrigued and blown away by you, and so inspired. It was like really cool and super unexpected, because I was just like learning who you are, listening to you, like loving hearing your story, and he's in the back like asking me all these questions, like how did she do that? And like, so it's really cool to see how you've taken your life and just made it into this beautiful expression of like, you're so aware. I loved it, and I'm so grateful that it inspired him too. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna cry. Thank you. I'm so honored. Really.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really cool though, like what you were just saying about like kinetically, like you're so much more aware because of what you've lived through, and to take that and make it a gift, you know, like so good. So thank you.
I really appreciate that. And then that is my hope, is that it can inspire others to tap into what that is for them. You know, I mean, certainly my story is not the same as everybody else's. And, but I really believe that we are all born with gifts and challenges. And, you know, that's what creates the harmony of the ecosystem, right? So I believe that it is I believe it's our duty to find purpose and to create that purpose through our challenges and our gifts, the combination of the two. Because I also believe that you should never, you know, you hear this a lot in sports, like work your weaknesses. And I don't believe you should neglect your weakness, but I believe you should work your strengths, because your weaknesses are most likely never going to be your strengths. You know, but your gifts are there for you to share, because they're what you can bring as contribution to the world, and other people benefit from that. So yeah, so that's why I feel it is important to share my story. And you know, I do think that a lot of the challenges that I had are kind of that have, you know, been, they either have strengthened my gifts or have given me clues to what my gifts are, you know, and I think that's for everyone. So
so apparent, and you can kind of check that off the list because you are inspiring many people, so my son included. So
that's really awesome. That's so awesome to hear that. Yeah. Is he involved in the practices? And what, he's 12, and how old's your daughter?
So my daughter's 9, and she loves, like, she was in person last night when we were all together. We did it, sometimes we do it in black lights, and she loves when we do that. He, not so much. He does do like traditional yoga with me, but yeah, he's not into Chakti. It's not his thing, but it's okay. It's not for everyone. I'm
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Does he like yoga, regular yoga?
Yeah, he'll do it with me. I think what he loves, and he's my little empath boy, he loves that I love practicing with him. So yeah. And so like, I know what he loves too. So I just have to make a point to, like, you know, there with him too. But he has a huge heart, and he's like, knows how much I love to meditate and do yoga. And so he'll do those with me.
Oh, that's so cute. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you created this practice. Now, what went into creating it, and how has it evolved?
Whoa, so much has happened. Some things, there's such a learning experience, obviously, when you have your own practice, but not only that, make it into your business. And this is my, you know, this is really a huge part of my life. And I've had like this journey of just like so many people coming to me like, I want to teach, I want to share this practice. And like really going within and not feeling like, how do I do this? Right. Well, I'll make a really long story short that I created a teacher training program, and I ended up certifying and making, you know, like giving people permission to share the practice. And like, it turned into something that wasn't in alignment with my highest, and it didn't feel right. And so I basically was like, you know what, like, we are so unique, and I want to like take everything you've learned and go and do your thing with it. But it was like, you know, people coming to me like, I went to this class and it wasn't like your class. And then I'm having like instructors talking about like how someone moves, and I'm like, wait, no, this isn't what it's about, like, at all. We all move so uniquely, and that should be celebrated, right?
All human beings are designed to move, and the ways in which we do are our unique creative expression. Yep.
Yes. Put some exclamation points on the end of that.
Yeah.
But it seriously, it started to feel like, whoa, like this is just not my heart. Like, I don't want to put anyone in a box to try to look or do things like I do.
Right.
I don't want little minions. Like, that's the furthest thing from my heart and passion. And so what I did was I dissolved the teacher training program, and I just like basically set them free. And so there are like some practices still going, and they've just recreated and put their little spin on it and call it something different. And, you know, there was like some tug of war within about that whole process. But ultimately, I just want people to feel really amazing in their body. And what I've realized is, because we're working with the sacral chakra a lot, like creative energy sparks in people. And they're like, there's all these shifts that happen when Shakti awakens. Mm-hmm. And it makes people think like, oh, I want to do this, you know? And like, no, what I really should have said is like, no, this is like your unique you wanting to be expressed. Let's see what that looks like for you. Instead of like coming to me like, oh, I got to teach this. I want to share this, you know?
Right.
I would have now, and that's what I do now. I'm like, this is just your authentic self wanting to come up and out now. And to go back to your question earlier too, that's another thing that I've seen so much is a transformation of expression in people. So when you allow this Shakti energy to, the Kundalini, it's like an awakening. The way that you may live your life and operate is going to start to look very differently. Mm-hmm. You know? And I've gotten to witness that, like, some people change the way they dress. Some people change the way they, you know, they don't want to do their job anymore because it's not at all what they're passionate about. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're in a relationship where they're not standing in their worth, and all of a sudden they have the strength and the power to go, this isn't what I want. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa. It solidifies and strengthens the bond of a relationship because there's so much beautiful sexual energy that comes through in the practice as well, you know? Right, so sure. Yeah, there's a lot to loop around in there, but basically there's so many benefits to movement, as you know, and in this practice we take a lot of movement and put it together into one practice. So by the end in Shavasana, I want, you know, just to allow everything we did that was so intentional to assimilate in the body and hopefully create like powerful and positive transformation way beyond the mat into every area of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So awesome. And it's so profound because I think it is so true. You know, we can't until we fully inhabit, you know, I was saying before, because it's the physical manifestation of our emotional, mental, and spiritual being. So until we really fully integrate that, I think that we are kind of stuck. So
yeah. And like, you know, kind of like hunched forward and like just like enclosed, like energetically, but it shows up in the physical body. Yeah. And then, you know, like as that awakening happens, like there's like this just rolling the shoulder back, kind of like adjusting your crown, like, you know, like get it in the right spot and like stand in your power. Like, you came here for such a divine, amazing purpose. And there's so many people who are just literally following along with the matrix of this life, you know, like.
And we're really seeing that now.
Your face. Yes, we are, like, firsthand. It's insane. But yeah, and that's another reason why, like, even now more than ever, to have the ability to move your body freely. Yeah. Because we need freedom, and in every area of our life right now.
Yeah. And we need to take it where we have some control over it. And that is something we have control over. We still
have it right
we
now.
have that.
And my intention is that we will continue to have that. But it's time to fight for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, so this is probably a really good segue into talking about, so we're talking about physical release and we're talking about freedom, right? So there are a lot of people who have been feeling pressure to put things into their bodies that they may not have wanted to, or that they may have been, led to believe it was beneficial, and they're now paying, some consequences that are really unfortunate. But there's lots of toxins we deal with all the time anyway, right? So you and our friend Sean have come up with something to help people detox. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with the current situation in the world, whether you've chosen to take the experimental drug that's being dispersed at a rapid rate, or you are just like you and I, where we've chosen not to, and we are around people that have. So it's so important. And even before all this was a situation, like, to be aware, like you said, of like just the environmental effects of like what we're living in. So we call it a heavy metal detox protocol, because that is exactly what it does. It helps the body rid of like heavy metals. However, it goes way beyond that, because there's just even the most basic general guidelines of what it means to live a life, to stay really healthy and keep your immune system strong. What a concept.
Boosting the immune system. Let the body do what it was designed to do. This is crazy. What kind of crazy talk?
It's crazy, I know. Instead of just like covering your face with a cloth, I mean, there's so much you can do to be so incredibly healthy. And so the whole protocol from start to finish is like 20 something pages, but because we were very thorough, and like what you put in your body and what you put on your body makes who you are, right? So also what you surround yourself with, it becomes who you are. So we wanted to make sure that people know, like, okay, you take this supplement and this is why you take this supplement, and these are the ingredients in the supplement, and then this is the dosage that we recommend as well. However, like with anything, it's so important to do the research on your own. Like, we have to know the ingredients of these drugs that are, like we're talking about right now. And also anything, like any food you put in your body, any supplements, any drinks, like, know what it is, because there are ramifications, there are effects of everything, and it's either supporting you or it's hurting you. And we want everything to make you feel better, because something that I want people to understand is like, you were made to feel good. Like, you were made to feel good, like to not have to rely on a pharmaceutical to live. There is a time and a place, of course.
Sure.
But that is not our home state, is to feel good. And for me, it's like this journey is so fun in that way. It's like, how good can we feel? Like, we also, I included 3 meditations along with the protocol, just because of the emotional side of what's happening in the world. There's a lot of fear propaganda, and people have taken that fear and internalized it, and so we have to like allow a release of fear as well. And but also that being said, like, there's a lot of information in there, but at the very end we put just like a easy quick guide, so you can access, like, morning I take this and night I take this, right? And then there's like tips, just like, simple things you can do to stay hydrated and make sure you're getting good sleep, and, moving your body. Sweating is so important to help the body release toxins. So
Totally.
yeah, there's a lot in there, and it's only $11. It's like
Awesome.
we made it like so simple. I personally do the whole protocol, but I don't really think it's necessary. Like if you have not taken the experimental shot, like you probably don't need to do the whole protocol every day. There is suggested use for people who haven't, that are just more like worried about, the effects of shedding, because that is a real issue that we have to.
Yep. I wrote an article on it, and I wrote it as a hypothetical, and
Okay.
now everything has been proven to be accurate. So yeah.
So I was experiencing a lot of symptoms along with it, and now I no longer do. So yeah, it's cool that we're able to adjust our body.
It's really hopeful. Yeah, really.
However, you kind of have to stay on it. Like my daily self-care has ramped up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? In what regard?
Yeah. So for one, like if I'm going out and about, like I want to energetically protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then physically, the things that I do, I want to make sure that I'm moving my body every day. Meditation, crucial, just to be in I want to stay in that good vibration. And then the supplements I'm taking, and we followed but kind of tweaked the medical mediums metal detox smoothie. Mm-hmm. So I make sure and have that every single day. I'm taking D, vitamin C, like just like the whole gamut. And also drinking the white pine needle tea is really helpful to drink every day to prevent the shedding as well.
You have to be a little bit careful about which ones, right?
Yeah, you do. So you want to make sure it's the white pine. Mm-hmm. And the resin is particularly powerful to help us with the spike proteins. So like at the very bottom of the tea, kind of like looks like oily. You want to make sure and drink that. That's
interesting. Okay.
Like the shikimite is what it's called. Yeah, you want that. And so I live in North Carolina right now, and there's tons of white pine here. But I know that like you can get you can still order it online, no problem. But you want to just make sure it's the white pine, which is like the long needles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know. I was taking a supplement. It was the pine bark.
Oh yeah. Okay. Is it a pill?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd be interested to look into that too.
Yeah. I'll send you the link for it. Yeah. And I can post it in there. Yeah. It was called Pycogonal, but
cool.
Yeah,
it's really like one of those things where we're like, okay, this is working, but like we have to be open to constantly adjusting and like tweaking with what we learn about this new experimental drug, because we don't know everything about it. And in particular, I've always felt really confident with like, oh, you have this parasite, let's get, oh, you have these metals, like the body is so profound and we are so capable of healing, but this is a new beast.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much.
Aren't we all? Yeah. No, it's really unfortunate that there is not more discussion around it, that there is so much censorship around it, but just from like a completely innocent place, if we don't know as much as we possibly can about something, then we can't, something could go wrong with anything, right? So there's like you were saying before, there's risks for everything. And that doesn't mean that you don't, I mean, there's a risk for driving a car. That doesn't mean I'm not going to drive the car, but I have the ability to adjudicate the risk versus reward. And for me, the reward is greater than the risk of driving that car. So I choose to drive the car. But we should be able to have the information so that we can make those assessments. And the less information we have, the less hope that we have for discovering ways to find the antidotes. That's really what, the antidote, both for the people who are being affected by those around them and for the people who may have taken it and not done so well with it. Because there are people who have taken it and not done so well. So which is really unfortunate. And I think if there had been more transparency, then we might be at a place where we might be able to know what to do for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was no intention to be transparent.
Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah. So it's like going like according to their plan, like it was like, this is exactly, it's not something they wanted people to understand or look into or take an informed decision about. It was like, here, let us just pump this through the media and tell people they need to take it and that it's going to help them, knowing that it's not going to help them. It's actually hurting them. So, and it's really a tough thing because people who naively and did not look into it have literally injected something into their body that it will affect them their entire life. It's not to say that I truly believe that there are ways that they can live a good life, but yeah, I truly believe that. And I really believe sound frequency is a huge part of that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've gotten a few downloads about that where it's like almost like a magnet, like pulling, the frequency can pull out. Yeah, so I don't have this like obviously scientifically tested, but I've seen it visually, and it kind of makes sense to me, like that frequency is so dynamic, like, and it can be so healing for people.
Sure.
So like a magnet to pull it out. But yeah, people have taken it thinking they're doing good, that they are completely saving the world with it, not understanding the whole reason it was created.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's because they don't have the information, right? So, only now are some starting to leak through, and it's the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah. And did you see that they are like Pfizer is trying to withhold information till like
5 years?
Yeah. So
5 years.
Basically, once people who are like have taken it are like either extremely old or not here anymore, then the results of this testing will come out. That's absurd.
It's absurd, and it is so incredibly arrogant and grandiose, and I hate to say, but I kind of think evil. It's all.
It's 1,000% evil. It's exactly, we are living in Revelation right now.
It feels that way for sure. It's definitely spiritual warfare.
Yeah, sure. It is. And it's so apparent when you like just fly above it and take the bird's eye view and look down and you're like, what is happening right now? And there's no other explanation that makes sense than this is a spiritual war. I mean,
I definitely agree. I definitely feel that. I want to touch a little bit on this frequency thing though, because it's really fascinating to me. We were just discussing before, I pressed record about my hearing aids, and we had to reset them, and they're all really off. But it was really interesting to me yesterday sitting in the audiologist because and my heart really goes out to these people because most of them can hear, so they don't necessarily understand what it's like. They can empathize, but I don't know if they can really sympathize and fully fathom what it's like to have these certain frequencies missing. And I was really trying to explain it because when you go through the different aids, I would hear, even without any sound, just like in silence, I could tell that certain sounds felt suppressed. And there was no way for me to really explain it, Yeah, so it's kind of like, well, I'm feeling an occlusion effect. That's my big one that I really hate. It feels like you're being like kind of closed in. And apparently that has to do with the low frequencies being too high in the settings. But all of this to say, I know I'm going really into the weeds on something that a lot of people probably just can't relate to at all. But all of this to say, it's fascinating to me though, because I'm constantly compensating for certain frequencies that even with the hearing aids, I mean, I'm just not, both ears have different, they're kind of, they even out, but the right one has like a low frequency loss and the left one has more of a high frequency.
Do you find that you hear certain frequencies like way better than like, I guess that it would be hard to know, but like it seems like you're so much more aware because of that, like that you can even hear it.
Well, I'm really aware of my old audiologist used to say that she would move like 1 decibel and I would notice it.
I love it.
Yeah, and part of it does have to do with I have a pretty significant hearing loss, so I'm much more sensitive because I'm working with less. So, so that's part of it. And I think I'm also I'm a sensitive person. So, it's heightened just because of that. But part of it really is just because I'm working with much less. So I need every bit that I have. And if any of that is messed with, I'm like, what am I losing? What am I losing?
Yeah.
Or what did I gain? Because she moves it up like 1 decibel. I'm like, oh, and it happened yesterday too. I was like, oh, you moved something. That was great. Like, we'll do that.
So amazing.
So, but it's interesting to me just to think about like the frequencies and, how is that, I don't know, affected by what people, because people can be affected by frequency without knowing they're being affected by frequency. I've actually had biofeedback frequency tests and treatments done, which are awesome. They're really hard to find a practitioner who does them, but I can feel a difference afterwards. Like I feel very alert. Have you ever had it done?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, but we're constantly impacted by frequency. Like our phone is emitting frequency constantly. The 5G towers around, and if you're more sensitive, like I'm sure that you can actually feel that, but the frequency is just like what we were talking about earlier with food and your environment, and it's either helping you and supporting you and giving you life, or it is really detrimental for your health.
Yeah.
So that awareness is like, there's so many things we can do. Like we were discussing, there's technology now that will prevent the damaging effects of like Bluetooth radiation. And, there's things that we can do. Crystals are so helpful to have around your home. And, there's certain specific frequencies that you can have around your house that support, the negative effects of all of these.
What's so fascinating to me, what just really struck me about this, like what you just said, you were like, you can have crystals, and there's scientific evidence behind this. We know how, crystals, particularly certain kinds, impact molecular structure. But what I think is so funny is, as you said it, I'm like, it sounds so woo-woo, right? Like, it does, right? People are like, oh, crystals, we're gonna heal with crystals. And to be fair, I'm not, I know a lot of people probably think I'm like really anti-allopathic medicine. I'm not at all. I think there's a time and a place, and I think we are so blessed to be in a time where we can have both. We can have all these different modalities. And I think the destruction and the harm is done when certain modalities and access to those tools are shut down. It's not that, one better than the other. They serve different purposes. But I just, when you were saying the crystals, right, there is scientific evidence behind it. And, people who are familiar with the physics of molecular structure and how frequencies impact that know that. So yeah, but I know people's heads immediately go to like, oh, crystal healing, you know. And I'm not saying crystals heal everything, but they do have an effect. They're part of, you know, yeah.
They do. And I've gone so far past caring about stuff like that, that I'm like, I'm used to being like, I mean, whatever. It's just like, you can meet people where they are, you know, but like, I have personally experienced the effects of and the support from, you know, nature. It's rocks from nature, you know, like the grounding effects of like when we're in nature, like you can actually bring that into your home and what it does, you know, like bringing plants into your home is so helpful as well. Like there's so many things that nature gifts us that have become woo-woo, which is hilarious. This should be the norm.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. It's so healing and so grounded. And you know, all the blessings of our modern society have disconnected us from nature. Yeah. So a lot of these symptoms that a lot of people are experiencing are a manifestation of that disconnection, because we're not designed to be. We're designed to be in nature. So
it's really like, I mean, the disconnect from nature has severed people from like the ability to feel so amazing. Like they think it's normal to be sick and to, you know, to need pharmaceuticals to function. And, you know, like we literally, the gifts from the earth that provides everything we need to feel good, you know. It's like yeah, but like to go back to the frequency and have you ever done like a sound bath or like
so I've done sound baths. I have difficulty with sound baths.
Just wondering how that would feel.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to figuring out how it could work for me, but I think most likely some of the group settings don't work because they're designed for people who hear the way that I don't. So with my hearing aids in, they're excruciating.
Oh, I bet.
Like,
it's so loud.
It's too loud, and it's not just too loud, but it's like certain sounds are super like they're like penetrating, but not in a healing way, you know. So I take my hearing aids out, but then some of it I just don't. I don't know if I'd need to be closer or if it would need to be certain frequencies, because a lot of people talk through them too or play music. And that is jarring for me because if I don't have the hearing aids in, I'm missing parts of it. And then, so it creates a, you know, rather than it being a abundant experience, which is what it should be, I think it becomes kind of like a deficient experience. You know, so
I would probably, I mean, if I were just working with you individually, I would suggest to remove the hearing aids and just allow, you know, like
keep them in. I can't. So that's why I feel like it needs to either be in an environment where somebody who is leading the sound bath can, you know, knows that I can't hear unless they have like a microphone, maybe when they're talking or the music. Yeah, so the rest of it would need to be orchestrated in a way that I'm getting the experience, because otherwise it's just really frustrating for me.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. But the sound is so powerful and so healing. So that's what I think the frequency can be a helper in this situation that we're in right now, because, you know, like what is the Japanese doctor that did scientist that did all the testing, Miyamoto, is that his name? He did the testing on water when you structure it.
I don't remember his name, but I know that he used crystals. Yeah. And he showed how the water molecules changed. Yeah,
exactly. And what are we, like 80-90% water? That, you know, we're primarily water. And so I would love to look at it in a way that I could actually see it happening. But what my intuition is saying is like, you're using sound, which reacts to the water in your body in a positive way, because you're using high frequency sound, like set to the love frequency, and then what happens in the body with what has been injected into the body, I would imagine it has to be pulled up and out. Now, to have a pathway to come out of you, that's where we need to do these, protocols like the one we made, like to help the body rid it. But like, I can just see it as a kind of like a accelerated path of healing to pull it out of the body.
Yeah. I can definitely see how that could work. Yeah.
So
that's fascinating. I wonder if anybody's exploring that and doing any studies on it.
I don't know. I don't know. I've seen it a few times, and then I've also seen to work with magnets. But this is another area that I'm not super familiar with, but I feel like because there is metal in this, to use magnet to help pull it out of the body. And have you seen like people are actually more magnetic because of it? Like they stick magnets too.
Well, there is something in them that's called magnetofection, and they use superparamagnetic nanoparticles. And the reason for it, if we were to just, take out any nefarious kind of intentions, just the scientific reason behind it that they're claiming is to help export it to the cells, because the material itself would be attacked by the body if it were to be exposed. And so this helps to transport it directly to the cells before it has a chance to be attacked. But the fact that, it is doing that shows that there's definitely is a magnetic component to it. So it would make sense that that's the principles of homeopathy, that you would use the cause as the antidote, or the toxin as the antidote, rather.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that obviously this is so new. So, but I'm just open to, like, I want to stay open, and like if I need to continue tweaking this protocol, like like, because we're finding out, oh, this works even better, let's do this, like, because we're all in this together, and we really need this community to just really support for wherever you are in your beliefs and thoughts and opinions about what's going on. We have to take care of ourselves like never before. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, we need community. We need support. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And people need to do what's going to work for them, because it really is different for everyone. And that is one of the things that we're seeing, both with the illness as well as, the experimentation that they're working on. We're seeing that everybody reacts differently, because we are all so unique. We're as intercellularly unique as we are externally, so yeah. So I think that that's really important, that people tap into what works for them, and tap into their intuition and listen to their bodies. So, which makes perfect sense that you're working on both ends of this, because, the Shakti Yoga is very much that. It's connecting to your bodies and connecting to the intuition and to, your inner guide. And we need the same thing for everything that's going on right now, because people, I think that is part of, that's one of the results of all the technological advances, is that people are so disconnected from internally what's going on.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I think a lot of people don't even understand that they have an intuition. Like,
I think that's true, unfortunately. Yeah.
Like, just like the most simplest checks of like pausing and like asking your body if it needs whatever you're about to put in your mouth, and, like just taking those moments of pause and like really seeing the reaction that happens there.
I think it's become so taboo I know, like, I get very strong intuitive impulses about things. And when I voice them, a lot of times I'll be kind of shut down as being crazy, or like, or I'm just being scared, and I'm or they somehow being irrational. And, it's when I have a strong gut feeling about something, I always preface it with, this is just my feeling. Like, I could be wrong. I certainly don't claim that this is the truth, but I don't ignore that I'm having a strong feeling about something, because that there might be a reason for it. Maybe there is a reason for it, and I don't know the actual reason. Like, maybe I'm getting a sense about something, and what the obvious to me at that moment is not actually accurate. I don't know, because I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the future holds. But I do know that feeling is valid. And it's not just because it's my feeling, we need to support our feelings, which is true, but it's not just that. It's because it's trying to tell me something. So I think that people need to honor that and really push against, not let other people shame them out of listening to those voices. Because I personally experienced that. And I know in our culture, we discredit a lot of the intuitive in favor of the rational. And I'm all for rational. I think, reason and logic are, beautiful things, but they work in tandem with the intuitive and spiritual.
That's the key part right there. It's working in tandem. Like, I can have amazing conversations and, like, maybe even something to do with my work. And I'm like, really in the thinking mind, but then ultimately I got to go in and check in and see, like, does this resonate? Is this right for me? And this would be something that would be incredible for people to do right now, with how much information is so readily available to us. And so to take those moments to really ask yourself, is this right for me? Or am I being influenced by influencer or the news, or fill in the blank? Because there's so much influence right now that can greatly impact your life if you were to blindly choose to do so,
So true.
Check yourself, and then check it one more time. Like, anything that I'm even saying, anything in the protocol, anything you do, and wherever you are, make sure it's right for you. What a concept.
What a novel concept. And it shouldn't be at all. Yeah, I think that is, I do think that's by design, this information overload. It's designed to demoralize and destabilize us.
Like, how clear do you feel if you just, like, completely turn off the phone, go out in nature, and all of a sudden you have all this amazing, like, insight and creativity and, these downloads that come through because you are disconnected from the distractions that they want us to constantly have going on.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Yeah. And because we have a lot going on internally, and that's it. I think we turn to the phone and we disconnect and distract ourselves from all of it. So
that's why meditation is, like, really crucial part of our experience here, and having those moments of allowing our mind to be washed, and, like, just.
So can you talk a little bit about meditation? Because I think people have I think a lot of people have, like, they get very overwhelmed when they think about the idea of meditating, or they have a lot of judgment around it. Like, they don't know how to do it. They're not going to do it right. Yeah.
I think another common misconception is that your mind is supposed to be quiet, which rarely happens. It definitely can, and you can go into those, theta brain waves where you really just, like, you're no longer really here, but you are.
Right.
But there's so many times where it's like, think of it as if you were to have, like, this appointment right now, like, it's on the calendar, you show up for it, and then, or whatever, your workouts or anything to do with your daily life. And what happens when you show up for yourself, that's the gift of meditation, because it is time carved out just for you, and to connect to your higher self, which increases our abilities of our intuitive abilities and our abilities to, tap into the profound energies that we have in this experience, like endless. I could go on that for a while, but like you show up and you connect to your breath, which is our life. Without breath, we're not here. So honoring the breath and taking pause and just like a pause, like in reverence of like the fact that we can breathe, and like, you can even slow yourself down enough to go like, the blood is pumping through me right now. And, like all the organs and the many functions, that there's 72,000 nerve channels right now, just like doing energy, like flowing through me right now. Yeah. You take this moment and you honor, I'm here, and you sit in awareness, and you close your eyes and you breathe, and like maybe you're thinking about what you have to do next, and of course honor it, and then just keep breathing. Maybe you start thinking about a conversation you had yesterday, say hi to it, and then just keep breathing. But what happens is like, you don't go a day without brushing your teeth, because what happens, your teeth start to feel gross, right? So think of it like a washing for your mind, like, and when you do that, it becomes like clear, and like everything in life really becomes easier. The way you respond to other people, the way, anything that happens in our day-to-day, like say you're just driving down the road, like what is even road rage? Like honestly, it would probably be completely eliminated with the daily meditation practice, because things start to not affect you. You're just like in a more present awareness of like this school that we're in here on earth. Like,
it's really so funny. The antidote for road rage.
This is one example of a billion.
Sure, I think there's a lot of validity to it. Yeah.
There's a level of ease that comes through with daily meditation practice, that you are able to show up in this experience in a way that's like, you know what, this is some people call it a game, some people call it school. This experience that your soul came here to be on earth, like it was not to be, of course it's a part of our experience to have anger and trauma and rage and all these things, but that shouldn't be like where we
live, where we reside 24/7.
No, like if something happens that makes me upset, I want to just breathe through it and be like, okay, what am I learning from this? How can I alchemize this into love? That's right. What Mother Nature does all the time with death and destruction. She's like, I'm going to turn this into the most beautiful thing ever. You are an example of that. Like everything that you've lived through, you have totally alchemized it into beauty.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's such a testament to all of us, like what you're able to do. And that's the ability that we have. And every moment we can shift our perspective, and that takes pausing.
Yeah, it does.
You have to slow down and, really be calm and present with yourself. And man, I would say it's probably like the most important thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And as a result for others, actually, because the more you can, the more you can be present with yourself, and the more you can, I don't know how really to phrase this, but you want to transcend and evolve into the best version of yourself, and to give yourself the most abundance you possibly can, and then other people will benefit from that. So yeah.
I always tell my clients, I'm like, self-love, self-care is never selfish. Like it is the least selfish thing you can do, because we all benefit. Like my daughter, she's like, Mommy, why do you always do this? Fill in the blank, like meditate or run or work out. Why do you always do this? I'm like, trust me, I am such a better mom because I do these things. My kids benefit so much by my self-care practice.
I had I don't know, it was years ago, but my mom and I were on a trip in New York City, and it was like, I don't know, a few days had gone by or something, and at some point my mom said to me, can you please like go to the gym, because I can't really handle you anymore. You're a much nicer person when you've had your workout. I was like, yeah, I know that. I know it's true. I just get like, I tend to internalize things. And so like I bottle everything up, and that's just one of the ways I can kind of just release all of it without like lashing out at other people. So people are, I do think that the term self-care has become very trendy. And I think it has evolved to mean something for a lot of people that is not really what it means. It's not all like spa treatments and like, shopping sprees. Not that there's anything wrong with spa treatments or shopping sprees. I mean, I'm a big fan of them. I think they're really fun, but those are not really self-care. Those are, and I don't think those are self-love either. And sometimes they're like a Band-Aid, and they can be an escape. Not to say that nobody should ever get a spa treatment or do a shopping spree, sometimes that's essential. But, it's a very kind of temporary fix, which I think self-love and self-care sometimes actually, it doesn't have to be harsh, but it can be. It's a range of things, and it's serving you. That's, I think, the bottom line. It's doing what serves you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, being a part of being here means like, if we're diving in and going within and, checking in, honoring ourselves, like there's going to be childhood trauma that we're healing. There's going to be past life things that come up. And the more and more we deepen our awareness and our practices around self-love and self-care,
right,
you're going to come face to face with these things and go, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, I'm going to deal with this too. Okay, I'm going to deal with this too. It's part of it, but it's completely worth it. And it just makes you have way more ease and just adoration for this time here,
Yeah.
So it's worth it. And, I even have like, I encourage clients, I'm like, just make a list, put it on your fridge. Like maybe there's 20 things on the list that would totally support you and help you. And you don't get to all of them every day, but like everything on there, like if I do breath work, if I meditate, if I move my body, if I write affirmation, if I journal, like, these things, like they're depositing into your bank of wellness. And it doesn't mean every single day we're going to get to all of them, but every single day we are taking care of ourselves. And what happens when we don't take care of ourselves, you can see that so clearly. You can see someone who doesn't emotionally and physically take care of themselves. You can feel it. You can actually you just want to hold them.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. And I think that's such a great point when you talk about that, because I'm just thinking about this movement towards, a lot of the body acceptance movement, and like the, I don't know, like even you may not agree with me on this, and this may be controversial, but even like the no makeup, no filter, like, and I'm like, there's time and place for that. And you should definitely accept yourself as you are, but there is something, to be said for maintenance and grooming and wanting to put your best, face literally forward towards the world. I don't think that it doesn't make you shallow. That doesn't make you superficial. That's kind of like, you don't air all your dirty laundry, right? And this is your vessel that you're putting forth to the world. And there is something to be said for first impressions. And why wouldn't you want to put the best one forward to other people, So, and that's not the same thing as excessive vanity to the point of like narcissism, or there's degrees of things, right? And there's balance, wanting to look and feel your best, And then there's making that all that matters, you know, there's somewhere in the middle, and that's a really good place to be, I think.
Yeah, I'm so with you, but I think the practice of, you know, whatever you like to do to, you know, feel your best.
It doesn't have to be the same for everybody. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, is like beautiful expression of the divine feminine and like sacred feminine, like, because it's like you are adorning yourself and loving yourself, and that looks different for every single person, but like it is an act in and of itself of self-love to
exactly.
this vessel that we're in, like to honor this suit, like it's I think the, like, not vanity or vain at all. I think it's so important, and it makes me show up differently in the world, you know, like what would you do if I just showed up with a robe on, like eating a sandwich, like, you know, like not at all like honoring
yeah.
honoring you, and like, you know, this podcast that you have put a lot of work and time and energy into. It's like, I'm going to show up for you, you know, like, and the way I show up in the world, you know, I think that's beautiful. But yeah, you can take it too far real quick.
Real quick. And I know a lot of people who do. And yeah, I think that's just it. It's all about balance. It's really, yeah.
Found myself falling into that trap where I've gone too far, like thinking like, oh, I want to alter the way I look. Like something that I don't even think I've talked to you about is I got breast implants a number of years ago, and they made me deathly sick, and I ended up explanting. But just the whole journey with that taught me so much. Like,
wow.
The way that I perceived my physical body and thinking that I needed to look a certain way, it taught me a lot, and it also almost killed me. But
what happened? What was, I know a lot of people have a lot of injuries from breast implants, so I'm sure
it's actually really in alignment with what we've already talked about. Learning what you put on and in your body affects us, you know, and the silicone or saline implants are thousands of chemicals that are placed right over your heart, of all places, right? So now I see it so differently, so I'm going to explain it very differently, but you are sliced open, these implants are put in, and then your body goes to town to try to get them out. So I had this autoimmune response where I was constantly sick. Sinus problems, urinary tract, bladder infections, just really having, the list goes from like headaches to fertility issues to like, because it is a foreign object in your body.
Right.
And your body is brilliant. It's like, oh, attack, let's get this out. But it can't get them out. So literally within hours of my explant surgery, my skin looked different. Like I felt better, brighter within hours of getting that out of my body.
Wow.
It's been quite a journey of healing from that, but like, I kept going to the emergency room. Like, I'm not getting better. I was like, all these, you know, all these issues and complications with like just chronic pain in my bladder in particular. It was horrible. And I have not had a single problem. Actually, I haven't even been sick at all since I explanted, period.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
And there are so many women, like you go and they make it like you're at a candy store and you're going to pick out the candy you want. That's like your chest candy, you know? Yeah. They make it seem so easy, but it is a really intense surgery you're put under. And, you know, and yeah, it's something that I really wish, you know, now there's a warning label, whatever, on them, but it's like, now there's like thousands and thousands of women who have these, and they may not even have the awareness that their daily headache is because they have toxic bags sitting over their chest, you know?
Right.
I'm to the point where I don't know that, I mean, you can live your like highest health with implants. I think the body is going to want to try and get them out no matter what. Like, it creates a capsule around it. So they have to like remove the capsule with the implant.
Wow. Fascinating. I'm as you're talking, I'm just listening. It's different, but it's also made out of silicone. I had an iris implant put into my eye because I was born with two different eyes. Yeah. The only thing that happened for me was it was the first time in my life where I had been able to manage the glaucoma without medication. Right. And then after that, and they told me that was a risk, you know, and it makes sense just because now you have more pressure. There's something else in the eye. And, you know, glaucoma is literally just intraocular pressure. So that's what it is. You know, if the pressure builds up in the eye, so it's either that you're having too much pressure build up or you're not able to drain it. But it's just interesting. I'm just thinking like I knock on wood, I think I've been okay, but
you take incredible care of your body, you know? And honestly, like even in the midst of all of that and the way that I was taking care of myself, like I always think like, I don't know if I exacerbated my symptoms because of my awareness or you know, like, it's like,
make yourself sick. You think yourself sick, actually.
Yeah, I know what it means to feel really, really good, and I don't feel good. So, but it wasn't until it was a divine relationship that happened where a friend had an explant and she was telling me her symptoms, and I was like, oh my God, it's my implants. Like I didn't make the connection of what it was until she said that, and my whole body went cold, and I was like, there's the answer, you know? But you know, there are a lot of like hip replacement, knee replacements. There are things that are in the body that your body will like learn and adapt to, but it's like we were talking about earlier, the practices that you do are pretty crucial to keep you in alignment and keep you healthy. And I know you're doing that. So
I mean, it's one of those things this is very candid, and I don't know that my audience knows. I've really not talked about this much at all, but it was one of those things like I didn't get the result I was looking for at all. We knew that most likely it would not improve my sight. There was like this, you know, 1 to 10% chance that it might. But most likely it would just be a cosmetic procedure. And I was really willing to take that, you know, that could be the result. And it's one of the things like, I actually don't regret it all, because even though the result was not, at first I was very disappointed because, you know, it's a microphthalmic eye. So that means it's a small eye and you can't put the procedure was actually 6.5 hours long because you had to keep cutting it, because you can't make a, you know, microphthalmic eye the same size as a normal eye. You can't like put a normal iris into a microphthalmic eye. And, you know, it was an experimental procedure. We didn't know that at the time. And the doctor didn't know that at the time. You know, how could he? So he did a really great job with what he had to work with. But so the result was not what I'd hoped for, because I wanted 2 matching eyes, you know, like that's what I wanted. So it was still, the color was slightly different, but the color match was much better than what it was before. And the size was better. And now I was able to no longer wear, like I used to wear matching color contacts to try and match my eyes. And so now I could wear just a rim. You know, I still work with an artist to hand paint a colored contact, you know, it's really just a rim, which is so much more comfortable, you know, which allows my sighted eye, you know, my strong eye to breathe and to see and have more range of peripheral vision, which was otherwise compromised by wearing the colored contact lenses. So I actually don't regret it. I think that was a huge, you know, boost cosmetically, but not just, you know, in terms of aesthetics, but in terms of like feeling, you know, confident, really, you know, that I could now, and comfortable wearing, because that contact lens isn't super comfortable and it doesn't impact the vision in my strong eye. So yeah, so yeah, it was a really interesting, because it was definitely a journey, both physically, emotionally, and yet I still think it was an improvement. So yeah.
I'm so glad. I was actually going to ask you, like, do you wish that you would have done something differently, or are you happy with?
I'm really happy with it. It has made my life easier. I still don't feel, it's still it's always a vulnerability. Anybody who gets to see me without my contact is, they're a special person in my life. Because that requires a lot of trust. It's just vulnerable for me. But at least, now I can wear glasses, which sometimes I do, and not feel as self-conscious. So yeah, and I definitely think that it was the, when I was talking about, like, the cost benefit analysis before, and in terms of adjudicating the risk versus the rewards, and like the negatives versus the positives, I still think that the positives outweigh the negatives. And how great that I could be in a time where I could be part of an experiment like that. I was part of the clinical trials, and yeah. So, I you never know what could impacts of anything could be, but there were definitely a lot of benefits. So
yeah, I mean, and that sounds amazing. Like, my experience was so completely different, and it sounds like yours was like exactly what it needed to be for you. Mine was like, I was so sick from them. So
yeah, no, yeah.
But yeah, I'm so happy for you, and that it worked out that way. That's amazing. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was just interesting, because it did make me think about it. Like, I haven't really thought about what I guess we just don't know. You never know, though. And there are so many people who do have, even with implants or with, so many procedures, and they have, because the body is so, I think there is, and this is going to sound woo woo, but I think that because, the body is so intelligent in its design and its ability, but it's also, we are not just a physical being, right? So because of the spiritual, emotional, and mental components, that anytime there is a physical, a physical occurrence that's out of alignment with the rest of it, I think that creates complications. So it's not just, although the manifestation of it could be physiological, and that's not to negate physiological or to say that, like, we need to blame somebody, because I want to be really careful about that. Like, I think sometimes when people hear that, like, oh, they made themselves sick with their thoughts, or, which you can do, but it's not to blame that person. It's more to raise awareness that we're integrated beings. We are not just the mind, body, heart, or soul. Like, we are all of it, and they really need to be in alignment and integrity. And when I think when they're out of alignment, that's when we create disease, right? It's dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And it is about being out of alignment. So I think that's, one of the strongest, most integral components of all of it. So
100%. It's like you trying to, like, you go to the doctor for like one thing, and they just treat that one thing without looking at the whole system. It's a really broken way of where a system that, like, there's so many foundational things that go into, like, our health and wellness, just to, like, target that one thing.
Yeah.
Like, how does that even work? This complex system of us, like, we are such amazing creatures, and you're like,
complex.
It doesn't work. Yeah, this is literally just like slap a band-aid over whatever you got going on and move on, without figuring out the root cause of what's making this happen. Yeah. I mean, we've all been, well, I know myself, I've been a victim of that. And
oh yeah, so have I. And now I'm really reticent to, like, even yesterday when I was really not feeling well, and I was very careful to, instead of, like, I mean, I really don't take even like Advil anymore, but, like, instead of being like, okay, I'm in pain, how can I numb this out? Like, okay, well, what could be causing this? What do we think this is? And, that's not to say that you don't need doctors, or that you never need medication, but sometimes we need to check in, like, what could this be? And, how can we heal this? And maybe that healing is just time. Maybe it's just, yeah, there could be a million things, but it doesn't always need to be rushed to put a Band-Aid on the symptom, because that can create other symptoms as a result. So
yeah. And it's really cool with that awareness, that you can literally anything that is, we've literally come back from the dead, like you're never too far gone.
People who have, yeah,
like the liver can rejuvenate itself. Like there's so many abilities of our body, if we're like really given the opportunity for healing, that we can. There are certain things that I personally don't know how to heal, but I've heard and seen people do it, which is just like absolutely amazing. Have you seen the documentary Heal?
I haven't. No.
What? You have to watch that. Like,
okay.
It's so phenomenal. It starts with like Joe Dispenza and his work with his spine and how he was able to heal himself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, you have to watch this documentary. It's so good. I've watched it like 5 times, so I love it so much. It takes some of like Bruce Lipton's work with the biology of belief. And anyway, we're a complex system. Like I was told by my endocrinologist, this was forever ago, that I would need my thyroid medication for the rest of my life.
For the
rest of my life. Like, where's the hope in that? And then like that, actually, I have to say, I'm so grateful for her, because she lit a fire in me. I was like, I am not going to be on this medication for the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to figure out what my body is saying to me, what it really, really needs.
Yeah.
And
what did you do? How did you, was it hypothyroid or hyper?
Yeah, I had hypothyroid. My thyroid was like barely functioning, like losing my hair. My skin was so itchy and dry, and just like my metabolism was all off, my sleep, everything. I had a like lifestyle overhaul. I changed the way I was eating. The biggest factor, I think, and if anyone is listening that has hypothyroidism, look at your household cleaners, because harsh chemicals are like thyroid's like I think greatest impact. Like it's so hard on your thyroid. So using like natural cleaners and plant-based products around your home, like being cognizant and mindful of like not using those Glade plug-in things and fragrances and fake candles, and we are inundated with these chemicals that our natural bodies are like, what is this? And I think the first thing that happens is your thyroid is like, I don't know how to function. I can't do this anymore. So now I just like, even think about like air fresheners in your car. Like think of all the ways chemicals are impacting your body, and then understand that like going back to the way nature intended and not using harsh chemicals and smells, like even laundry soaps, body soaps, perfumes, all of them have an effect on our systems. Mm-hmm. So that was the hugest pivotal part, I think, in my healing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's something people really undermine. They don't think much about. Yeah.
That's probably the first thing I'll tell people. Like, let's look at your home. Let's look inside, underneath your kitchen cabinet, and in your bathroom, like in the laundry room. Let's go around, because chances are, if you're getting it from like a conventional corporation, it is full of toxic chemicals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that is so true. So true. And yeah, to be aware of some of the marketing labels, because I think a lot of people slap this, like, it's like, I think was it the 80s and the 90s, and they had the heart healthy label, and they really just it was basically like chemicals mixed with like, GMO grains, and they're like, this is heart healthy. You're like, really? How? Please explain that to me.
The greenwashing is like at an all-time high right now, where something will say natural, and you look at the ingredients and you're like, how can you even say natural?
How is this natural? What about natural?
Natural chemical waste? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
It's so bad. and they make the packaging look all like, you know, organic, and it looks like, oh, this is going to be good for me with these fancy words. And then you look at what is really in it, and there's like all these PUFAs and, you know, the oils that are just like so hard for our body.
Yeah, to detox. Yeah. And I think that is the key element, is that our bodies are detox machines. So we're constantly detoxing. They get clogged up. It's just like a drain, right? A drain is supposed to be detoxing. That's what it's doing. It's taking the waste out. But if you have so much stuff going down the drain, it gets clogged up and it can no longer do its job to detox.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I would say. The number one chakra that is affected by this is the solar plexus. And you see that in the way, like not to generalize, but the typical American has like gut health issues, whether that's physically they are carrying weight there, or they are having digestive problems, or it's very, very prevalent that the solar plexus is impacted by this like insane amount of things that we're trying to metabolize, and body's like, I don't know what this is. What is red number 5 and yellow number 40? And like, what are all of these like words I can't even pronounce? How am I supposed to process it? Like, chances are, if we can't pronounce it, our bodies don't know how to digest it.
So there's some truth in that, and there's some not so truth in that. I mean, because I do want to be careful about that. Like, you could take broccoli and take its actual chemical ingredients. Most people would have no idea how to pronounce that.
True.
It doesn't mean broccoli is bad for you.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, if you're really breaking down, like if they really break it down to the chemical description, which a lot of things don't, but some of the more organic, holistic things will, and you'll be like, what is this? And it's something really benign, you know? So I think it's more about, like, people need to do research, and people need to investigate. And they also need to take in, you know, an auto checklist, like, you know, a self, check-in, and see, because we are tremendous detox machines, we can handle quite a bit of toxicity. We are bombarded with it constantly, but some toxins are going to be harder for certain people than others, and at certain times also. And another huge component of this is the gut. You had mentioned the gut, and our gut is actually quite impacted by our mental and emotional state. So we have more neurotransmitters in our gut than we do in our brain. And it's a feedback loop. They influence each other. So they're cycling. You probably know this. Yeah, they're cycling back and forth. And I know, like, for me yesterday, when I did the check-in, you know, I was like, I could tell this was coming from my gut, because I would feel pressure building in my head, and then it would cycle down my stomach, and it was back and forth. And I was like, something's going on. Now, I don't know what it was. And it's not to say that it was just emotional. It could have been, you know, it's been a lot of stress, and like, it could have been, or it could have been something physical. You know, maybe something I ate and didn't react well with me, or something, you know, or some kind of virus. I don't know, but I can guarantee the emotional state impacted it, because it is a feedback loop. And so that's why when you're in a healthier, you know, emotional, mental, spiritual place, you can handle a lot more toxins. Like, I've seen people who have allergies to things at certain times, and I've seen it with myself. There are times where certain things will be a huge allergen for me and trigger me, and I'll have physiological responses to them. And then other times where it's perfectly fine. I have no reaction at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book forever ago called The Grain Brain. Have you?
Yeah.
And I just loved how he talked about like the connection of like what we put in our gut and how it affects the way we think, and, you know, the way that every process of our brain is affected. Like, a lot of times, like, people could just cure depression just by changing the way they eat, you know. There's so much there. But yeah, just to go back, like, in general terms, like, if you're in the grocery store and you pick up like a processed food thing, like, just like, you know
the difference between processed food and not processed food, and that's a really good place to start.
Just like, you know, if you don't understand it, there's opportunity for research. And guess what, we have like this little computer that most of us hold in our hand all the time, where we can look up, like, if something, what is it, what does it mean, what is it going to do in the body? Like, we have the ability to check it, you know?
Totally. So that's a great note for people. So you're completely off of the thyroid medication, no issues?
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
I haven't had it tested recently, but like the last 2 times I did, I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm good.
That's awesome. Did your doctor take you off, or you took yourself off?
I weaned myself off. I started with like lowering the dosage, and then I got to the point where I was cutting a pill in half and then cutting that pill in half and just weaned myself off of it. And then, haven't looked back.
That's awesome. I was on thyroid medication for a while, and we could never get it right. Like it would be too high, and like then I would go into hyperthyroid, and then it would be too low. And I did the same thing. I took myself off because I was like, you know what? The thyroid is an adaptive organ, so it's responding to stimuli and all of it, you know. So I was like, so I'm constantly chasing this, you know, whatever number is supposed to be the normal range, and we're constantly chasing it and artificially chasing it. So now my body doesn't know how to regulate because it's being artificially adjusted constantly. So I was like, doesn't seem, and that's not to say there's nobody who needs, I always feel like I have to put qualifiers, but like, it's not to say that nobody needs thyroid medication or that nobody benefits from it. But I think that it is one of those things that is overprescribed because people rush to Band-Aid symptoms instead of, you know, looking at why is the thyroid out of alignment.
Well, it's a little more work. You know?
Yeah, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more time.
It's a lot more time and energy, but it has like endless benefits in your quality of life, you know? Was there anything in particular that made you feel like, oh, this is what healed my thyroid, or do you?
No, because mine tends to slip back and forth a lot. And for me, it's lifestyle. So, you know, like when I'm dealing with a lot of stress, when I'm not eating very well, when I'm not, when my exercise is like, it can be either too little or too much, my thyroid will respond. It responds like to emotional states. Like, you know, if I'm internalizing a lot of stress, and it'll respond to that. So it's, I think I'm very sensitive, you know, and my body's just constantly trying to find, I mean, all human beings are trying to find homeostasis, right? But homeostasis is different for different people. You know, so one of the ones that, sorry guys, I'm going to use a female reference, but like, you know, I think one of the ones that drives me actually bonkers is, you know, feminine cycles. We're taught that it's supposed to be 28 days, right? And not every woman is a 28-day cycle. That doesn't, now, like I've had irregular periods. And so certainly like a 46-day cycle is not normal, you know, but there's a standard deviation, right? And there's a range, and what is normal for me might not be normal for you, but we're told if you don't have a 28-day cycle, you don't have a normal cycle. And that's not true. Some women have a 32-day cycle, and that's their cycle, and that's normal. It is normal for them. It is so, you know, there's ranges, and your body's trying to figure out what that range is for your body. And how to be in balance, but your balance is not necessarily my balance. So no,
I'm 100% agreement with that. I really do not like, especially because as a woman, we are flowing creatures that like constantly are changing. We have 12 moons that we're constantly cycling through. But it's like, to make these absolute statements, like for women when they're pregnant and they're like, my due date is March 4th. And if March 4th comes around, you're late. And then there's like this panic, like this baby has to come out by March 4th. And like, no, the baby's going to
now we have to induce a C-section.
Like, let's speed this process up and make this baby come out at it. You know, like there's so many things that like just throw off the natural flow of the way that we're supposed to like your period is going to come at the perfect time. And yes, I agree. Like if it's gone way like months or like you're having it every 8 days, like let's look at what's
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Those are things that we should like look into. But yeah, there's like, it's really hard to be so absolute with something that is so flowing in nature.
Yeah. And, you know, periods and thyroids are both really fluid. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like a good marker. So when I know, like, so if I get, you know, a low reading, I know something's not quite in tune, but it doesn't mean I need to rush to be medicated. Now, if it were to drop super low and it were to be there for, you know, really long extended period of time, then, you know, it might be something worth looking into. Okay, what's going on here and why? And maybe we do need to treat this. But I think the problem arises when we're looking at a snapshot of something. And then we try to treat that snapshot, but that snapshot could be just an, you know, an outlier. So
yeah, it's so true. And I mean, there are so many things we can do to support ourselves and our thyroid, but ultimately it does take a little bit of like here, I'm going to tweak this and see if it works. And here, I'm going to try this. And like, you know, like seeing what works. And I mean, you say that you're really sensitive, but the way you describe yourself, you're just so in tune with like your body. And I think that's like how we should be. Like, I feel slightly off today. Why? Like, let me check in, you know?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as in tune as I used to be, but I'll tell you a funny story. As a kid, because I have glaucoma, I would go in and have the glaucoma checked, and they would play games with me. They're like, because they would say that you can't feel the pressure, that you can't know like how high the pressure is. So they would always test me, and I would always tell them exactly what number the pressure was.
What?
Yeah.
You knew exactly?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I can't do it anymore. I can tell if it's elevated, but like I've become kind of desensitized, you know, over the years. But as a kid, I knew the number, and they would always test me. They're like, that's not possible.
Wow.
Let's play a game. Let's see, is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you like desensitized yourself like on purpose? Like, have you wanted to do that, or did it just kind of happen?
I think I was just, one of my strengths is pattern recognition. So, you know, I had gone in so often over the years. And so, you know, I would hear what pressure reading it was, and I would associate with that, with the feeling that I was having. And so, you know, now certainly if I didn't have that feedback, you know, if nobody ever told me, well, your pressure is now at 26, like I wouldn't know. But because over the years I was so used to going in and hearing that number and then being like, oh, okay, you know, are we going to need to medicate? What are we going to do? Like, am I going to have surgery again? You know, it was that kind of thing. So I think I became much more familiar with, okay, I know what I'm feeling right now. And I know like this is they're going to put me on diamoxin was one of the one they put me on, you know, or are they going to, you know, have to operate, like kind of, yeah. So I think it was just having that feedback. But I was, you know, sensitive enough to know the difference between the higher, but yeah, I could tell you exactly the number.
That is insane. Like amazing. Yeah. Really in tune. But yeah, there's so much there. I'm just so grateful that I understand that the body can heal, and like, and that's just what I would love to empower more and more people to understand. Like you can do so many wonderful things to support your healing.
And I love that message. That is everything, because I think we are so trained out of that. And yeah, really, I hope more people can connect to that, understanding that they can heal themselves. The body does have that power, and just seek out different modalities, whether it be, you know, the physical kind of like Shakti Yoga, or, you know, they're you know, meditation, or cleaning up their environment, you know, like you did with your household products. So
yeah, I wrapped up a few weeks ago a course I do called Design to Thrive. I'm going to run it again, but it's literally just a 6-week course where we go through like foundational steps to just like okay, let's look at sleep and all the things we can do that, and like managing stress and our food and our environment and our community, and like just looking at each pieces of like the puzzle that all comes together that makes us feel good, you know, because like with that most basic foundational understanding, like any of the other factors that come into play, like are going to be have way less impact because we are foundationally at a good place, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it really is the kind of thing is like just understanding what we've said, that you are supposed to feel good.
Yeah, you are supposed to feel good. So if you're not feeling good, investigate why. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you can do to make yourself feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say too, like it takes a little more effort because it's not walking to a doctor's office and them telling you, oh, well, you have this. There's more layers to it, you know?
Yeah.
And because even cancer in and of itself is linked emotionally to like holding on to certain emotions, you know?
The anger turned inward becomes cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very old saying. So we know there's some truth to it. And there's so many, I mean, that's, you know, a whole rabbit hole we can go down, but there have been so many, there have been so many really effective, not, I don't want to say treatments, cures, you know, because
1,000%. I've actually gotten into a situation a few times where people are like, can you do a fundraiser for this? Can you do a fundraiser for that? And I'm like honored they want to ask me, but I'm like, but there's already a cure. Like there's already ways to heal your body of this thing. And like, but we're not taught that.
no,
like,
we're not taught that. Yeah.
So like, it puts me in this place where you're like, in particular, like with cancer and like the you know, like Go Play yogurt has like the little pink ribbon on it for like cancer research. And I'm like, what is in this bottle? There's like everything in it supports your body and being sick. like,
yes.
like, I mean, like, that's like, how is that even okay? It's so backwards.
So backwards. Like, I get that. That's really, yeah. I like grew up on that stuff. Yeah.
Like artificial sweeteners.
Yep.
And you know, it goes back to this conversation again where you're literally eating cancer, and then there's a sticker on there saying it's supporting the
research behind. Yeah, the research behind something that we actually do have ways of curing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which I think is so criminal. Then where we're seeing so much of that now, where there's things that actually have cures, not just treatment, cures, and they're being suppressed, and they're funding, you know, all this research on, so they can, it perpetuates it. So, but when I thought of the cancer, I was thinking about like the frequency, because that's something that has been shown to have a lot of positive impact. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, any sickness, any illness, any disease, like it's supported through healing frequency.
Yeah.
We're energetic beings. Everything is energy.
We're electromagnetic beings, which is why those frequencies have an impact on us, because we're conductors.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why you should all have crystals.
Do you have favorite crystals?
What did you say?
You have favorite crystals?
Oh my goodness, I have so many, but I use a lot of different quartz in meditation, and I'm laughing because I literally have one in my hand. But
so which one, can we see it? Which one is it?
This is cinnabar.
It's red.
Yeah, it's cinnabar, and it's it supports just love and abundance, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
But like in particular for frequent, like around your phone and like the music on your home, shungite, it's SHUNGITE.
Yes, and people put it in water too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can use crystals in your water to you know, crystallize and make it higher vibrational for your body.
Yeah,
so many benefits to it. I wish you know, if our eyes were able to see the effects of these different frequencies and radiations, people would have they would never say that this is woo-woo again. They would just like, they'd be like, oh my gosh, can you see how cool that is? Like,
yeah, exactly. And I really wish we could, I hope people listening can, really take that in, because it's not to say that like it's going to magically cure everything. That's not what it is. There are, frequencies, and there's impact of molecular structure. And that's what it, that's what it is. It is science. It's not just like, oh, here's this crystal and it's just going to magically cure everything. That's, yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. But that's not something that we're taught.
Right.
Yeah, it's really like.
So a lot of deprogramming needs to happen for everyone. Yeah.
On
so many levels. Yeah. Well, this has been really incredible. Do you have anything you want to add, or, closing things you want to leave people with? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for this time. I feel like I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
We just had to do it again. But
we'll definitely do it again.
Okay, yeah, I would just love to invite anyone who wants to practice Chakti. I would love, I do have in-person classes, but I'm here in North Carolina, but also online. So you can join via live stream. And then I have an on-demand library of classes as well. I would love to share practice with you and just, tap into the healing benefits of this practice together. And then, what else do we, the on Chakti.com, it's CHAKTI. That's also where the heavy metal detox protocol is for anyone who needs that. And it's only $11. It comes with the meditation. We just want it to be like so easy and readily available for people to feel really, really good. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
Let us know. Yeah.
I will. I'm going to try the Shakti Yoga also. That sounds awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely do this again.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.